Representative Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have the honor of representing Ohio's 11th Congressional District, a district that has been defined by the grit of working families, the contributions of small businesses, and the promise of American manufacturing. I want to focus today's hearing on how Chinese Communist Party's economic tactics have very real impact on everyday Americans. For too long, China has taken advantage of our open markets while putting up walls around their own, using tools like export restrictions, retaliatory tariffs, and targeted boycotts. That might sound abstract in policy terms, but it hits closer to home than people realize. When China imposes rare earth mineral restrictions, it doesn't just pressure Fortune 500 companies. It ripples through U.S. supply chains, raising costs for factories in the Midwest and threatening jobs in places like Cleveland and throughout Northeast Ohio. When China blocks key components used in American auto manufacturing, it's not just trade policy. It's a family on the East Side who can't afford to fix their car. It's a union worker furloughed without notice. It's a parent watching groceries and gas get more expensive while global tensions rise. Ambassador Emanuel, your testimony underscores how China is leveraging its dominance in rare earth processing to apply economic pressure globally. From your experience in Japan and your work building alliances, how can the United States and its allies act quickly to shield workers and consumers from price shocks and supply chain disruptions stemming from China's coercion?
Well, first of all, I want to thank you, Congresswoman, for noting the type of work that goes on in your district and across. And I say this also as the ranking member made note of the Ford plant, as I did, shutting down in Chicago. And as mayor, I convinced Ford to bring a third shift there, about 1,200 workers, not only, and then an additional couple thousand on supply side. So to see them shutter the plant, it's not just shuttering a plant.
That's right.
It means workers going without, as you noted, without paychecks, Little Leagues, and the community that's built around that plant and supporting all the other activities that go on, they all come to a, screeching halt. Not only did we talked extensively earlier about alliances working on an anti-coercion kind of coalition, but I also think knowing how to invest in our own strengths. I do happen to think the alliances and allies we've built up since World War II is a strength. We'll have our disagreements, like every family does, but in the end of the day, we share more in common than the disagreements and the highlights of those. I think the United States has an incredible capacity, both in our research, our innovation, our technology, and our ability to take risk. That is a strength. Abandoning any one of those is unilateral disarmament. The universities in Ohio, while they're competitors to University of Illinois or University of Michigan or any other statewide universities, is the envy of the world. The technology that comes from Ann Arbor, the technology that comes out of Columbus, Ohio, the technology that comes out of Champaign, Illinois, like the internet, the envy of the world. One of the opportunities I had by living overseas is you get to see America in a different light. I used to say lip service, the innovation, the ecosystem. But guess what? It's not lip service. It's a shining example. So not just protecting ourselves, but our strength, China replicates, copies, cheats, economic espionage, and intellectual property theft. We out-innovate everybody. To cut research and development dollars to our universities, to attack the ability for them to attract talent. I know this may be heresy right now. That is literally taking our strengths and making it a weakness, and it's wrong. And so that, to me, when you look at your universities in your state, the amount of not only innovation, but amount of startups that come from there, the next future in the sense of technology that comes from there, and companies that come from there, that's where America plays a home game. That's an away game for China. You want to play on our turf. Nothing to take away from the universities in Australia, so don't get upset. But we have something that every other country in the world is envious of. What goes on at our universities, what goes on at our companies, the people that come from around the world, to be part of that, why would we cut off our nose to spite our face? That's a home game for us. Play on our turf. So that's how you respond.
Thank you. So this is for either of you. Many industries in my district, steel, chemicals, and manufacturing, have been undercut for years by China's unfair trade practices, including dumping products below market value and subsidizing state-backed firms. How should Congress strengthen our enforcement of countervailing duties and anti-dumping measures in a way that not only holds China accountable, but also ensures timely relief for American workers and producers?
Interestingly, one of the things that led to China imposing, the PRC government imposing their trade bans on Australia, was that we had taken some anti-dumping decisions on steel for railways and rail lines and so on. One of the conditions that the new government agreed to in order to have all those trade bans dumped was to drop those anti-dumping decisions as well. And so anti-dumping, I think, is a real threat to China. And not just here in the United States or in Australia, but increasingly in developing economies all around the world. The number of anti-dumping inquiries and actions being taken by developing countries because the PRC's economic model is based on overproduction. Their consumer economy is weak, and they make up for it by driving overproduction at what is effectively at non-performing prices for their state-owned enterprises. They wear the losses, they dump the products, and this is starting to burn relationships between the PRC and what they would call their clients under the BRI program. So this is a weakness for the PRC, and so to highlight this overproduction, dumping of products, whether it be here in the United States or elsewhere, and working together with allies and partners to back each other up on those measures, I think is really important, and having some harmony about how these things are investigated and rooted out. Not only will that be beneficial here, but I think it'll be welcomed in developing countries, which the PRC often uses and lists to try and achieve their own objectives, particularly in international institutions. That's another area I'd highlight, the PRC's influence in international institutions. We talked about critical minerals and rare earths. Well, one of the increasing sources of that in the future will be from seabed, and the involvement of China seeking to gain seabed licence mining in the Southwest Pacific and others, and to crowd out allies and partners in that field is a troubling issue, and one that the US can play an important role in.
I know, Mr. Chairman, we're on short time here. There's an example right now on the magnets. There's a company in Australia, MP here in the United States. I think there's really important to underscore both your question and what the Prime Minister answered, which is China's attempt, will be right now, given what we're doing, will be to crush the price of magnets worldwide through subsidies, so that neither the Australian company or the American company can get their sea legs and be a standalone, capable company, supporting both the price and the ability to withstand price competition, and that's not market-driven, but state-driven, is going to be essential to our future, not short-term, over the long-term, decades, economic independence and sovereignty. Noticed, I think it was 2 to 3 weeks ago, China banned all scientists who work at the magnet industry in China from traveling overseas. I don't think it was because they've recommended that their holidays be sent only in China, because they knew that intellectual capability, and they're going around the world at the very time that Australia and the United States are starting to build up a magnet industry that is basically dormant to a standalone, is a thing that they don't want to see happen. So they can't go to conferences, they can't go to international gatherings. So sustaining those companies, reshoring, friendshoring, will make us economically independent of China's coercion.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.